The unfair competition law prohibits unfair competition. Sounds good start. So for our first story today, let's talk about the people of the state of California. This is in the county of Los Angeles. This is in the Superior Court of California, by the way. This is not in a federal court. Versus TWC, which is the Weather Channel. So California is suing the Weather Channel. This is a complaint for injunctive relief, civil penalties for violations of unfair competition law, California's Business and Professions Code, which you've seen before. This gets cited a lot when people file things in California. Plaintiff, people of the state of California, by and through their attorney, file this action against defendants TWC Products. For years, TWC has deceptively used its Weather Channel app to amass its users' private, personal geolocation data, tracking minute details about its users' locations throughout the day and night, all the while leading users to believe that data will only be used to provide them with personalized local weather data, alerts, and forecasts. TWC has then profited from that data, using it and monetizing it for purposes entirely unrelated to the Weather Channel or Weather Channel app. In fact, unbeknownst to its users, TWC's core business is amassing and profiting from user location data. One more time, unbeknownst to its users, the Weather Channel's core business is amassing and profiting from user location data, according to the state of California. Indeed, it has been reported that TWC considers itself a location data company powered by the weather. TWC's failure to alert its users that their personal information will be transmitted to others for profit is no mere oversight. As the general manager of TWC's consumer division admitted, if a consumer is using your product and says, "Hey, wait a minute, why do you want to know where I am?" you are going to have some problems. Quote, "The people seek injunctive relief to put an end to TWC's unfair business practices and civil penalties, both to punish TWC for its egregious conduct and to deter TWC from engaging in the same or similar conduct in the future." TWC is a subsidiary of International Business Machines Corporation, IBM, the IBM, which owns and operates the Weather Channel app, which is a mobile application that provides users with real-time weather information, etc. If you're not from the US, I don't know if you would use the Weather Channel app, but
thinking of it, I'm pretty sure the Weather Channel app is on the Wii applications as well, automatically installed. That's the only way I've ever seen it before.
Well, in the US, the Weather Channel is a very popular, probably the most popular weather station channel in the entire country. I mean, obviously, you've got local stations from place to place, and they're not going to be as popular as a national one. So even of the national ones, I think the Weather Channel is still the most popular one. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is. The complaint says that TWC markets the app as the world's most downloaded weather app, approximately 45 million monthly users. According to at least one organization, the Weather Channel app was the most downloaded weather app from 2014 to 2017. Unfortunately, TWC takes advantage of its app's widespread popularity by using it as an intrusive tool to mine users' private geolocation data, which TWC then sends to IBM affiliates and other third parties for advertising and other commercial purposes entirely unrelated to either the weather or the Weather Channel app's services. The geolocation data collected by TWC is not limited to general information about the city, state, or zip in which users operate the Weather Channel app. Rather, the app tracks users' movements in minute detail, even when the users are not actively using it. As detailed in a recent New York Times expose, apps such as the Weather Channel app can trace users' second-by-second movements with startling precision, tracking where users live, work, and visit throughout the day and night, and how much time they spent at each location. This geolocation information can then be analyzed to determine users' daily habits, consumer preferences, and even their identities, valuable data that serves as the basis of an approximately $21 billion location-targeted advertising industry. TWC purports to obtain users' consent for geolocation tracking by deceiving users about how it will use their data, When seeking users' permission to track geolocation data, the app does not disclose to users that TWC will transmit that data to third party, nor that data will be used for advertising and other commercial purposes bearing no relation to the weather or the services provided by the app. To the contrary, the app misleadingly suggests that such data will be used only to provide users with personalized local weather data, alerts, and forecasts. When seeking consent for geolocation tracking, the app does not reference or link to any other section of the app for more information on the topic, or give users any reason to believe that their location data will be used for anything other than personalized local weather data, alerts, and forecasts. Users, therefore, have no reason to seek such information by combing through the app's lengthy privacy policy and privacy settings sections, buried within which are opaque discussions of TWC's potential transmission of geolocation data to third parties and use for additional commercial purposes. Indeed, on information and belief, the vast majority of users do not read those sections at all. Unbeknownst to many users, the Weather Channel app has tracked users' detailed geolocation data for years, analyzing or transmitting that data to third parties for a variety of commercial and advertising purposes, including for targeted advertisements based on locations users frequent, and for hedge funds interested in analyzing consumer behavior. In fact, maximizing the amount of geolocation data the Weather Channel tracks is at the core of their business model. According to their executives, that data is one of the primary reasons IBM acquired TWC. The people bring this action to end TWC's unfair and fraudulent business practices, namely its practice of deceiving users into allowing TWC to track intrusive personal geolocation data through misleading statements and omissions regarding what the data will be used for and to whom it will be sent. The people seek civil penalties and injunctive relief, barring TWC from engaging in these prohibited business practices. So then they go over the parties, of course. We can skip most of this. The people of the state of California are suing under their unfair competition law, which is California Businesses and Professions Code, section 17,200 ex sequitur. Ex sequitur means thereafter. The TWC defendant is a Delaware corporation. They added some John Does who are defendants who they don't know their names. They could be fictitious names, and when the true names are ascertained, they will change the fictitious names into real names. That's normal John Doe stuff. The unfair competition law prohibits unfair competition. Sounds good start. Which is broadly defined as including any unlawful, unfair, or fraudulent business act or practice, and unfair, deceptive, untrue, or misleading advertising, and any act prohibited by Chapter 1, which commences at Section 17,500. The purpose of the UCL is to protect both consumers and competitors by promoting fair competition in commercial markets for goods and services. This is really important, so I'm just going to take a second and go over this. We live in a free market, so anything goes, right? Not so fast. A true free market is actually subject to a lot of regulation. And the freedom of the market means the freedom of the consumers and businesses to choose and move about, choosing their products and doing their business as freely as possible while yet maintaining fairness in the market. This is not Leonard French's definition. This is a well-accepted definition of a free market. So when you hear someone talk about the freedom of the market, it does not mean an unregulated market. It means a market that is properly regulated so that those regulations lubricate the markets to operate properly within a set of responsible and fair circumstances, rules, basically. So yes, you can over-regulate a market to the point that it's not free, but you can also under-regulate a market to the point that it's not free. It is not something where it's binary, free or not free. It's rather like a bell curve, and in the middle is where you find the maximum freedom. Because Section 17,200, or the UCL, is written in the disjunctive, a business act or practice need only be unlawful, unfair, or fraudulent to be considered unfair competition. Under the fraudulent prong, a business is prohibited if it is likely to mislead or deceive a reasonable consumer, or where the business practice is aimed at a particularly susceptible audience, a reasonable member of that target audience. Under the unfair prong, a practice may be deemed unfair even if not specifically prescribed by some other law. The UCL authorizes the city attorney to bring an enforcement action against any person who engages, has engaged, or proposes to engage in unfair competition. Person includes natural person, corporations, firms, partnerships, stock companies, associations, or other organizations of persons. The remedies for violations of the UCL include injunctive relief and restitution. In addition, when a UCL action is brought by the city attorney in the name of the people, the city may seek civil penalties of up to $2,500 for each violation. And I'm going to assume that the city is going to seek each violation as each individual person who had their information used in an unfair or illegal way. So that means if there's 45 million users, multiply, 45 million is only 1 month, so however many of hundreds of millions of users this turns out to be, by 2,500 each. And though they might not get that number or even settle for that number, that's the number that we're talking about.
Because I'm gonna assume they can't just use the 45 million users. They actually have to determine how many are in, where are we?
California.
California, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, it's some subset, I guess. It's only the California users. But this might also be something that other states' attorney generals or city attorneys, or maybe even civil plaintiffs, individuals like you or I, might bring and say, hey, you violated my state's code, and now you owe me restitution, which usually restitution for those things means whatever steps you have to take to protect your privacy now. And that's a really interesting question, too, because what in the world steps could you take to protect your privacy once it's lost?
Yes. I also wonder now, with that all coming over, if this is something available internationally, how would that affect with the GDPR? Where you're supposed to protect my information.
Yeah.
I never gave you consent to sell it off.
Where an act of unfair competition is perpetrated against senior citizens or disabled persons, the city attorney may seek additional penalties of $2,500 each violation. Unless otherwise expressly provided, the remedies or penalties provided by the UCL are cumulative to each other and to the remedies or penalties available under all other laws of the state. So they're facing some serious allegations here with some serious money involved. And this would be something where I would expect IBM in this case to go contact the city attorney and say, okay, we'll improve our stuff and we'll agree to a settlement. I don't know how many millions of dollars a settlement will be, but I'm imagining millions of dollars. I'm thinking $50 million or something like that. It would be proportional to the damage that's been done specifically to the state of California's people. I would expect, though, that other states would seek similar things, and we'll definitely report on that. So they go into some more of the allegations. I'm not sure how much of this is going to repeat, but they're going to be explaining that the Weather Channel app leads users to believe that their geolocation data will only be used for weather-related purposes, and they don't provide any sort of disclaimers or, exception, go see this terms of service here or something, and instead the users don't really know or never really on notice, which really isn't that high of a requirement. But if they didn't do the minimum thing, then yeah, they won't have the protection of saying that users agreed to this. So they go into some more details here. Users download things. Here is the prompt from, it looks like an iPhone. Allow the weather to access your location, and it says you'll get personalized local weather data alerts and forecasts. The permission prompt does not disclose that TWC will share geolocation data with third parties, nor that the geolocation information will be used for advertising or other commercial purposes unrelated to weather or services the app provides. So they might even be able to get away with providing advertisement related to the weather.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, one thing, can you scroll tiny up? So it says here, when do you want to get tracked? So only using an app or always allow. Well, in the complaint, it's saying it's tracking you always, even if you're not in the app. So it doesn't mean that might be another violation if it says if you clicked only use my location when I'm in the app.
Yeah.
That will say
that sounds like an iOS and Android permission. That if you were able to choose only while using this app in iOS or Android, the operating system might not provide your location to the Weather Channel app. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't find a way around that. I haven't really. It hasn't been available. Permissions in Android and iOS hasn't been around for long enough for everybody to figure out what's vulnerable and what's not. Once the app has been installed and opened, after the user has initially decided whether or not to grant access, the user can access additional information via the Settings tab. The Settings tab is shown here. However, based on the permission prompt, a reasonable user has no reason to believe the Settings tab would contain any additional information regarding TWC's uses of geolocation data. Moreover, the most apparent section of the Settings tab in which additional geolocation details may be contained, the Location section, does not contain any further information about the use of location data. And in fact, this is all that it says there. Now, I haven't developed for iOS or Android, so I don't know how much you have control over what the permissions tab for your thing says, for your app says, but I'm assuming they can add text down here or something. In fact, only by combing through the privacy settings and privacy policies sections can users learn that their geolocation data may be used for purposes other than local weather data alerts and forecasts. Furthermore, the privacy settings and section of the app are less than forthcoming. The section vaguely states that geolocation data may be used for geographically relevant ads and content and may be shared with partners for the provision of services such as business operations, advertising solutions, or promotions. Scattered throughout various sections of the nearly 10,000-word privacy policy, TWC states that it may use geolocation data to provide advertisements that are relevant to your geographic location, to conduct undefined analytics to improve the services, and for other undefined research or commercial purposes, e.g. analyzing trends based on foot traffic. On information and belief, TWC intentionally obscures this information because it recognizes that many users would not permit the weather app to track their geolocation data if they knew the true use of that data. In fact, according to the general manager of TWC's consumer division, if a consumer is using your product and says, hey, wait a minute, why do they want to know where I am? You are going to have some problems. So they then go into how the TWC app transmits geolocation data to third parties. They are able to convince approximately 80% of the app's users to grant access to their geolocation data, which they then proceed to track in minute detail. Executives state that they track consumers' movement throughout the day, week, and year with uber-precise geolocation monitoring, collecting data that is accurate down to 5 decimal places. I'm assuming that's latitude and longitude down to 5 decimal places, which is still has a few, a little bit of imprecision, but it's pretty darn precise at that level. Thus tracking users' personal data with unmatched accuracy and precision. Quote, TWC contends that it possesses the, quote, world's largest continuous set of first-party place data, geolocation data. Throughout this massive data collection scheme, TWC is able to track users' precise daily movements and analyze where they choose to spend their time throughout the day and night. It is sold to advertising and marketing companies. At least a dozen third-party websites received this geolocation data over the past 19 months. TWC and its affiliates have developed their own audience-derived location targeting platform called JourneyFX. Through JourneyFX, TWC and its affiliates analyze the data to ascertain a slew of personal information about users, to, quote, understand rituals, consumers' patterns of behavior, and the best time to market in order to influence that behavior. Wow. For example, a JourneyX case study found that affiliates leveraged first-party location data generated by the Weather Channel app to target McDonald's McCafe coffee offerings towards millennials who, according to that geolocation data, frequented breakfast-style diners. And this would be fine if users had agreed to it. Yeah. And a lot of people do. Other location data was provided to hedge funds interested in consumer behavior. TWC's wealth of weather and location data is the main reason IBM acquired it, and so they go into the causes of actions. They say it is fraudulent and deceptive to do this without consumers being fully aware of what their data is being used for. And so they ask for a $2,500 civil penalty for each violation, an additional $2,500 penalty for it being used against senior citizens and disabled persons, to recover the costs of the lawsuit, to be granted further relief, and they've included a thing here for an injunction that they be enjoined from engaging in these practices. So that's very interesting that the city of Los Angeles, I thought it was initially the county, it is the city of Los Angeles that is suing on behalf of this people of the state of California, suing the Weather Channel. So what do we think of that? Very interesting, huh?
Yes.
How would you feel if you learned that there was a marketing company tracking your every movement?
Well, I kind of already feel like that would go.
Yeah. Facebook and Amazon are already doing that, so it doesn't really change anything for me.
Yeah, it's one of those. I logged out of Facebook. I haven't been logged into Facebook for a couple weeks now. I think I did it at the beginning of my trip to Scotland, and I'm going to honestly keep that up as long as possible. But there's a political campaign coming up. You know, I disagree with certain political administrations right now, so I might have to give in to Facebook's illegal privacy schemes so that I can spread my own messages about my feelings about certain political administrations. But so, like I said before, we're still using Patreon. They haven't directly pissed us off. They've indirectly upset me in that they are playing with the people's revenue streams when they don't like what the people talk about. Certainly there's arguments to be made about whether the people that they have pulled from their platform are extremists or whether they're just people with views that differ from Patreon's. And there's this weird thing about whether MasterCard, like the MasterCard, is telling Patreon to do this. I don't know. It's weird. It's a very weird situation. So obviously Patreon had set up its business in one way and then something happened. I don't think it's just Jacqueline Hart. I think it's something more. So I appreciate everyone who wants to move to a different platform. And if you want to support us via PayPal or some other way, please contact us directly via DM or something, email or something, because we will accommodate you. I can provide a way that you can support our channel without having to give Patreon the 5% of your money. That said, I still personally our channel is been built through Patreon, partially through Patreon support. So I can't just go shoot myself in the foot and just decline all Patreon revenue and hope that you'll all convert over to some other platform. So instead, what I'm going to do is diversify, and we will continue to seek other platforms and continue to work with our community directly. And we will keep the Patreon open. And if you don't want to support via Patreon, but you do want to support the channel, just please let us know directly. On that note, our $50 plus supporters for the month of January are Jonathan Doe, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Andy, Kyle Mudrak, Verement, Tayne, Michael Pearce, Terry Crisp, Richard Fournier, Spirit Bear, Jan Negrey, and Daniel Perez. Thank you very much for your support. Now, I know there are one or two of you who have contacted us for support outside of Patreon, so you won't be on that $50 list if you're a $50 supporter. I deeply apologize that I don't have you on that list yet. I'm also not sure that there were any $50 plus supporters on that list yet. So I will correct that as soon as I get back to the States and as soon as I have a chance to figure that all out. For now, the $5 plus supporters will be put on a crawl as well that will be edited into the video like normal. I don't have a Patreon panel or LED panel for you at this time. We will get back to that all when I get back to the States to my studio there. And we also plan on making some changes to that studio. The studio's been very cluttered for a year. Basically, every time we do a story or I do a technology thing or whatever, I just put the thing up on the thing. And now it's full. Now, how cool is that, though? We have a full studio background that is so full it needs to be pared down. So we're making it look more pretty, more watchable, a little less cluttered. Still Leonard French. Not somebody else's version of what I want to do. But maybe we'll even have a live stream of like going over everything that's on the wall and then taking it down one at a time and then putting it back up. It's going to take hours, but we could do a stream on that. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for joining me. We love you all. Your support is invaluable to us, really. We use your money in ways to enrich the channel, and any little bit of enrichment that we get on the side is... I try not to spend your money directly on something on me that's unrelated. I don't go buy myself a new car or whatever. You're not going to see that. I will drive my car into the ground or until it's economically sound to sell it and get another used car or something, because I want to see this succeed. So I just want you to know that your support is greatly appreciated and used for, the purposes that I've stated. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and I will see you in the videos that drop and in our next live stream. Love you all. Bye.